This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. It is 11 p.m. here on the East Coast, live with breaking news for you tonight. That breaking news is about North Korea. North Korea now saying tonight that the United States demand that it give up its nuclear program could be a deal breaker when it comes to the planned summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Let's go right to CNN's Paula Hancock's live for us in Seoul. Paula, this is indeed breaking news here. What are the North Koreans saying tonight, and what does it mean for this proposed summit?
Well, Don, this is coming out from KCNA, the state-run media. We've had a couple of articles from them tonight saying effectively that if the US pushes them to unilateral denuclearization, then those are not the kind of talks that they are interested in, saying, quote, we'll have to reconsider whether we will accept the upcoming North Korean US summit. So they're effectively saying that if it is going to be a unilateral denuclearization that the US is looking for, then that is not what the North Koreans want. They also are slamming the comments we heard from the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, on the Sunday show, saying that if they open up, then economically the US can help them. Mike Pompeo saying that it would be not taxpayers' money, but private entrepreneurship. And they're saying that they're not interested in that either, saying we've never built our economy expecting things from the US and will never do such a deal in the future. So we're really seeing a very different tack from the North Koreans today. We know they've also cancelled high-level talks they were supposed to be having with the South Korean delegation. They were supposed to be having that at the DMZ right now, pushing forward the peace talks, but clearly that's not happening. They believe that these Max Thunder military drills between the Air Force of the US and South Korea are hostile. They say it's against the Panmunjom Declaration. That's the agreement that the North and South Korean leaders signed. And they say that clearly it is a hostile policy, which the US and South Korea deny, saying they're annual, they're defensive. But clearly we're having a very different view from North Korea today, whether it's a pre-negotiation ahead of a summit or whether it is saying these are the concessions that we want. We simply don't know at this point. Don?
Let's talk a little bit more, Paula, because in a sense, I mean, this was kind of expected that the North Koreans would throw a wrench in the works here.
Absolutely. It did appear to take the White House, the State Department by surprise. It certainly took the South Korean government by surprise as well, as they were heading up to the DMZ for more talks. So I think the timing is interesting, but the very fact that North Korea is now pushing forward what it wants is not necessarily surprising. They've already said, have released 3 American detainees. They have said that they're going to close down their Punggye-ri nuclear test site before the end of May, and they're going to invite journalists along to see that. And they have said that they're not going to test missiles or nuclear tests anymore. But clearly there are things that North Korea wants, and this appears to be the first show of what they are looking for, suggesting that they don't want these military drills to continue. They've consistently said they are not happy seeing these military drills, and also saying that they're not interested in this North-South North Korean-US summit if it is a unilateral denuclearization. Right. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the White House responds to that, because clearly that appears to be what the White House wants.
Yeah. Paul Hancock with the breaking news from Seoul, South Korea. Thank you very much for that. I want to bring in now CNN contributor Frank Bruni of the New York Times, also Bill Kristol, editor-at-large for the Weekly Standard. Good evening, gentlemen. So, Frank, your reaction to this breaking news?
Well, as you said, everyone was expecting a wrench to be thrown into the works at some point, and we just didn't know what the wrench would be or when it would come, and this seems to be that. I'm surprised that the Trump administration is surprised, as Paula reported, and I think that there was a sort of victory lap being taken about these negotiations well before the victory had been notched.
When everyone who had seen this process before or had some involvement in similar processes had said, slow your roll. I've heard every expert on CNN saying, slow your roll, like, let's wait.
Everyone's saying this is not a reliable negotiating partner. This is not a stable regime in that sense, and you should not take this victory lap. And it'll be very interesting, Don, to see over the coming hours or days how the president reacts, because he seemed very invested, you know, as a matter of ego and in other ways, in the notion that he had made real progress here, and now that progress is in question.
Korean state media reporting this, Bill Kristol, and I just want to read a quote and get you to respond to it. If the Trump administration is genuinely committed committed to improving North Korea-U.S. relations and come out to the North Korea-U.S. summit, they will receive a deserving response. But if they try to push us into the corner and force only unilateral nuclear abandonment, we will no longer be interested in that kind of talks, and we will have to reconsider whether we will accept the upcoming North Korea-U.S. summit. What do you say to that?
I think the Trump administration has to be willing to walk away. I mean, this is any kind of bargaining, especially with this kind of totalitarian regime that has repeatedly made promises and broken them, repeatedly gotten concessions and by promising to do things and then not having done them, in a way taken in both Democratic and Republican administrations over the last 20, 25 years. I mean, I think it's very important for America's standing in the world that the Trump administration be sober and serious and say, I'm sorry if we're not coming on, on bended knee to this summit. We want to discuss. You seem to suggest that you were interested in pursuing a denuclearized Korean Peninsula. If you're not, we'll have the summit. We'll postpone the summit.
So should we be surprised by this, though? I mean, I think most people thought that it would be off the table.
Which would be off the
complete denuclearization, yes.
Well, no, this was always the question, but Trump was so enthusiastic about it, and it wasn't unreasonable to see if maybe Kim Jong-un was different from his father and grandfather, and maybe the regime had had a change of heart. Maybe this was a Gorbachev moment, as people said, for North Korea. I was always skeptical. I think most people are. But again, the key here for me is how people see the U.S. reacting. If we seem sort of flustered and desperate to have negotiations, or if we just go crazy and lash out the other way and Trump starts insulting him, I don't think we look like a serious country that knows what it's doing in foreign policy. If we have a measured and stern response and are willing to walk away, then I think, then at least we can see what happens.